Hello gang! So this is day 7 of 31 Days of Horror with me, Alex. I've been through a lot this week, and number 7 is this 1977 movie. It's Hausu. You see here next to me, behind me, there is a stack of movies, and they've been supplied by filmmaker Kevin Kopacka. He's been watching my channel, and then he had some suggestions, and he's given me a stack of movies. I'll be picking some of these for the upcoming week. But now back to Hausu. This was my first time watching this movie. I went into it completely blind, not knowing anything. Having just seen the poster, I had no idea what to expect, and I'm going to share my bewilderment with you right now. Hausu messed me up so bad. It's a relatively brief movie. It's around 90 minutes long, and it's extremely colorful and handsomely put together. There are some dazzling camera moves and some very precise editing. Some of it is cutting edge considering the film's vintage. It's about the same age as, for example, Dario Argento's classic Suspiria. Hausu isn't a traditional horror film though, not in a traditional sense. As I saw the poster, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was curious, and boy is this movie original. I really appreciated some of the early stylistic excesses. It reminded me, Hausu reminded me of Rainer Werner Fassbinder's film Querelle, in that it's not bothered about realism, so it's happily theatrical and embraces its soundstage origins. It also reminded me a tiny bit of Tokyo Drifter, again in the sense that the filmmakers utilize very blatantly fake sets with abandon, so there is plenty of that in Hausu. Let's talk a little bit about the film's story. It's a tale of 6 or 7 girls. They go on a trip. I guess they're all in the same class, and they have names like Kung Fu or Fanta or Mac, short for stomach. So these are not too bright schoolgirls, and they end up in this house which is ran by this female Dracula figure. So this elderly lady, some sort of a vampire. This is what I surmised from the film. There isn't much in the way of carnage in Hausu, although there is an amazing flying head scene, and there are a few people lose their limbs, and there are some gushes of red. But it's all ironic. The movie, the way it's shot, it looks like an old perfume commercial. There is a lot of that gauzy look to it, some Vaseline on the lens maybe, so it's extremely, the picture is mostly very soft with some, it's bathed in orange glow a lot of the time. There is also this theme tune, which is like this quite simple piano tune which keeps being played throughout the film, so that it gets stuck in your head afterwards. This movie isn't very earnest though, so although there is some immense craftsmanship on display, I really have to salute the people, how much effort went into laying tracks for those elaborate pirouettes the camera executes throughout the film. All the editing, all the blue screen, what hell they must have gone through back in the late 70s in post-production, making sure Hausu is as finely paced and put together as it is. But it's all a bit in vain, for me at least, because the film is just so shallow. It's decidedly shallow, and it stays completely on the surface. It reminded me a lot of some, I don't know, I got some vibes there like it's a Czech animated film or something, in that it's all about this surface, and it's all about you know, this film is amazingly fast-paced. There are edits and sweeps, and there are those irises, so it keeps assaulting. I felt assaulted having watched Hausu. It throws every filmmaking trick in the book at you all the way through the running time. It never slows down for very long. However, at some point I felt overwhelmed and I wanted it to slow down, and it wouldn't. And I wanted for the story maybe to focus a little bit on some of the people, because we have like a very overpopulated movie with all characters just sort of popping up into the shot, and then there is this cut, and then there is another character, and they have maybe one line, and then the camera moves on to the other person, and it goes on like this. So it's a very modern film, it's a very contemporary film in that it's more obsessed with tricks and flashy transitions, and showing you off all the colored gels they've got and all, what kind of a dolly and zoom they've got. So it's a very techno-obsessed film at the expense of everything else, and it certainly is merciless to the viewer. It kind of almost disregards the viewer even being there. So it reminded me a little bit of contemporary movies like Requiem for a Dream, movies where it's all about form at the expense of human touch, really. So yeah, human touch was kind of lacking a little bit. You know, Hausu felt a little bit mechanical, even though it's also at the same time a showcase of immense artistry. If I was to make some kind of a crude comparison, I would say this is like Suspiria meets Yellow Submarine. Please excuse me, this is my first viewing of the film, so this kind of a metaphor might be a little bit too basic, but it'll have to do for the moment. I happen to be interested in film trickery and in mechanics of how films put together. Therefore, this movie held my interest very easily, because I loved every time there was a clever transition, or when I saw, oh my god, they pull off something very complicated with rather primitive means. So the kid in me was riveted. It's like a Méliès movie where tricks are kind of obvious, but at the same time they are so brazenly shown and with such panache that you can't help but, you know, be impressed. So there is a lot of technical bravura on display in House, and that kept me entertained. But the shallowness and lack of, ultimately lack of something to say, really hurts the movie, and also lack of earnesty with I guess with the scares. I mean, it's neither a musical nor it's a horror movie, nor it's an art film, nor is it a comedy. So it falls out of every genre. I don't know how the fuck they marketed how the fuck they got it financed and bankrolled. It's a mystery I'd like to maybe unravel one day. But for the moment, I gotta say, if you are just a casual viewer and you watch movies for fun and you're not into being bamboozled by something, maybe Hausu is a little bit too much for you, so you might wanna stay away from this cute kitty here. However, if you are an adventurous type and you're interested in learning some filmmaking techniques or getting exposed to some extreme stylistic experiments, Hausu is quite cool. And I'm not sure where I stand with this film. It definitely tried my patience as far as I do want to relate to characters in the movie. And there was one girl from Seven, she was called Kanfu, and she was the one who was proactive, and none of them had any substance to them, but at least Kanfu was proactive and she tried to do something about the situation, whereas everybody else was just kind of, you know, Teletubbying around. So yeah, there was a bit of Teletubby brainlessness and insanity to Hausu as well. For a movie from 1977, Hausu is extremely technically proficient, and some of it is dazzling to this day. What it lacks is earnesty and genuine having something at all to say, but it, in a way, it almost makes up for that with just virtuosity, with just how damn well put together it is. That was day 7 of 31 Days of Horror. Many thanks for Kevin Kapaka for providing me this review material for this video.